Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of September 25th, 2012. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for the floral arrangement they always provide for our use at these meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell. Here. Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
And we are happy to have this evening a number of representatives from the Scouts in San Bruno here, and I'd like them to please come up and lead us in the pledge this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We do have one announcement this evening, and that is there's going to be an emergency preparedness event occurring this weekend in San Bruno, and I'd like Chief Telford to give us a little more information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The San Bruno Community Preparedness is holding its first annual Community Preparedness Day. So it's going to be at the San Bruno Resource and Recovery Center at 458 San Mateo Avenue. It's going to be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So we're encouraging the community to come out. Red Cross will be there, San Mateo County Office of Emergency Services will be there, Lowe's will be there, and the USGS will be there. So it's some great information for the community to get prepared in the event of any disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Presentations this evening, we have two. We're going to present a proclamation celebrating St. Bruno Parish Church 100th anniversary. This will be presented to Tao Fu, I said that correctly, hopefully, and Thelma as representatives of the Parish Council. And I'd like to read the proclamation, 100 years after all. St. Bruno Parish Church 100th anniversary. Whereas, on Friday, October 5th, 2012, the St. Bruno Parish Church will celebrate its 100th anniversary. And whereas during the past 100 years, the dedication, commitment, and loving guidance of church members has strengthened the family, nurtured our youth, and helped people in distress. And whereas through the years, the St. Bruno Parish Church has demonstrated in many ways acceptance of a role of responsibility, and whereas we gratefully acknowledge the influence for good accomplished by these, our neighbors, who have contributed so much to the community during these past 100 years. Now therefore, I, Jim Ruane, Mayor of the City of San Bruno, officially recognize the St. Bruno Parish Church, and on behalf of our citizens extend our congratulations on this most happy anniversary occasion and best wishes for another 100 successful years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tafui Piutao, and I'm the pastoral parish council of the parish of San Bruno. I'm very honored to receive this proclamation from the city of San Bruno. And I'm very grateful to receive this on behalf of our pastor, Father Michael Pilandes, and our associate pastor, Father Rafael Avila, and the people and community of San Bruno Parish. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council for this great gift to the parish of San Bruno. We thank you, and thank you very much.
On behalf of San Bruno Church, we would like to invite everyone
Our events are on October 5. We have the awarding of the awards night, which will be celebrated at the South San Francisco Convention Center, which starts at 7 p.m. with a dinner. And then October 6th is actually the anniversary of the church. And we have a 5 o'clock Mass, which will be celebrated by the Archbishop Queen, followed by the coronation of Princess and Queen of the San Bruno Festival event. And then Sunday, we also have another event which starts at about 11 o'clock in the morning until probably 8 o'clock in the evening. So these are just get-together with all the kids and parents and teachers of the CCD classes. So everyone is welcome. And again, on behalf of the St. Bruno Parish Church, we appreciate the proclamation that the City Council gave to us. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. We have another presentation by the San Bruno Park School District on the district's parcel tax measure on the November 2012 ballot.
Good evening. Thank you very much, City Council, for providing the opportunity to provide information about what the school district has been doing in terms of financing public education. What has happened is, in terms of history, the San Bruno Park School District was first established in 1907, February, as what had happened in San Francisco in the San Francisco earthquake. During this period of time, like public education throughout the various school districts throughout California, which is roughly over 1,000 school districts, have been basically dependent upon state funding to provide public education and access to all students and children within the school district. Because public education requires constant vigilance in terms of using monetary support from the state, the San Bruno Park School District has always been a good, clean health in terms of its fiscal management of its funds that's been entrusted. But what has happened is, it's depicted in this graph, that basically shows since 2007, the funding to public education in this state, like many other states in the United States, have basically become at issue in terms of balancing budgets. And you can see beginning in 2007 to now, this year, 2012, 2013, that you see the blue line above there represents what is COLA, the cost of living allowance, has not been granted, and then the loss of dollars. The amount of money that's been lost to public education in this state has been over $20 billion. And I'll translate that to the San Bruno Park School District in a moment. So this is what has been lost up to this point. Currently, as you know, there are two initiatives, Proposition 30 and Proposition 38 on this state ballot, which is a reflection of trying to provide a different funding or provide funding source to maintain public access to all children in California. If they do not pass the governor's initiative, the loss will be, which is spent on $5,245, which is less than the $6,748 that would have been given, that basically the mid-year cut, which we represent about $441 per student, and that translates to about $1.5 million cut during the budget that's already been passed, that's being worked on for next year, but has been passed for this year. And so what we have to look at is basically it translates the loss of $4 to $5 million to our school district. And so what has the district been doing for the last 5 years? Elimination of class size reduction program. The state was giving a little over $1 million to school districts like ourselves, so it's gone from 20 to 31 students in each class. The elimination of music programs as well as gifted and talented education programs. There's been no instructional material adoption since 2007. What that means is not able to get new textbooks that reflect what is coming down the educational pike, and that is what is called common standards, which is using a lot of technology in the educational process K through 12, which becomes obviously, in order to provide the 21st century student, it requires money. The reduction of book titles in the libraries at each of the individual elementary schools as well as Parkside Middle School. What else has been done is cutting back on the personal staff developmental days, which is basically they usually have 4 days, now it's down to 0 because of funding loss from the state. There's been no increase in salaries since 2007, to whether it's teachers, staff, or administration that make up the school district that's required to run public education in an effective way. What has happened now with Crestmore and Rollingwood is joint principals, because they not be able to afford a principal at every school. And last but not least, cutting on the administration, that includes at the district office the loss of 2 assistant superintendents to try to deal with this each year deficit loss from state funding. So what have we been doing on the revenue side to try to generate? Education is one of these enterprises that does not generate income like a private corporation where you can sell a product. Our product is priceless because we're dealing about the future of the public education and to the students that will now become leaders in our community as adults, and to provide them all the opportunities possible. So on the revenue side, it's limited. What we have done, we've taken money from the Carl Sandburg and installed solar panels on every building to basically offset the increasing electrical price or cost. And essentially, that for the school district, it's about $250,000 that is required to pay for electrical bills each year. And we know that our electrical PG&E bills are going up each year. And so trying to think ahead and to save more dollars and use it effectively. Another thing is we have rented, as you know, to VB Golf and getting rental income at the old Ingville site. And last but not least, one of the things that's in basically that all school districts have to deal with is liabilities. And one of it is retirement for medical benefits. For example, the largest school district in the country is LA. Their school budget is $6 billion compared to ours, which is roughly $21 million. They have a liability of $9 billion. Our liability is roughly $5.3 million. And we've put aside monies that would provide to reduce that liability in order to free up money to provide support to the educational enterprise of the San Bruno Park School District. Mr. Martinez is going to continue with the presentation.
Thank you. So what we wanted to take you through now is actually now the San Bruno Park School District educational parcel tax.
Excuse me, Kevin, pull the mic a little closer.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
There you go.
Thanks. The intent of the parcel tax measure itself. These were the core principles in the ballot measure itself. First and foremost, is to provide a local funding source that the state cannot take away. Local funding, of course, is so much of the upset now has to do with state funding and what we may or may not receive, even if the measures pass, what that does to the long-term for education. In this sense, the local funding is guaranteed to stay here within San Bruno. Well, secondarily, to reduce the impact of state funding cuts to San Bruno Park schools. At this point, it's already been $4 to $5 million. Of course, with the governor's proposition, perhaps the fate of that not known, those kinds of cuts, as we've shown there, is that protection is what we're after. Sustaining our high-quality neighborhood schools, the neighborhood schools of San Bruno really do identify with each neighborhood. You can kind of look through each, and as you go through, to see whether in the Crestmore neighborhood, Portola, and so forth, Allen, Bel Air, that the high-quality neighborhood schools have been a priority in San Bruno, and so supporting that structure of neighborhood schools is provided for as well. Reducing combination classes at almost all of the schools really their student body is taken, they divide out the number of students in each class by 31 and just place teachers as they may be. So in some schools there'll be a K1 and a 1-2 and a 2-3 class, a 3-4 class, and so forth. Those combination classes, and the teachers do yeoman work in providing for the needs for each student, but still that structure, sometimes the placement of even just one additional teacher can level out the staffing throughout a school site. Attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers. Of course, the primary interaction that matters most is that between the teacher and child, and teachers of San Bruno are fantastic. This is not, though, to be considered just a training site for teachers as well. We really do have a committed core set of teachers, and retaining that quality relationship here within San Bruno is the goal of the measure as well. Reducing the cost of special education. Special education is, we provide high quality program to all students, but it is not fully funded at any level, both from the federal government who mandates it and the state. Significant resources go to filling that shortfall every year. We think that we can also do things structurally with special education, to do things like set up consortia between school districts with some investment of funds that could make special education itself a more efficient program to still provide a high quality program. And lastly, funding curriculum reform. As Dr. Sanchez mentioned, the Common Core standards coming. The state has not provided any funding for curriculum in particular. So we're looking to fund curriculum modernization with, to the modern Common Core standards with the measure as well. Some of the guidelines and just structure for the parcel tax would be providing for a Citizens Oversight Committee. That's not required, but we did add it in to ensure that we stay within the boundaries and have citizens other than the school board look to see that we're within the funding parameters that we outlined in the measure. We will generate annual expense reports, and these will be audited as well internally, and our external annual audit will look to the parcel tax expenditures as well. There is no money provided for administrator salaries. And with this, and we did provide for an exemption. Seniors can apply for an exemption annually through the district office to pay their annual parcel tax, and also to qualifying very low income households, which is kind of a technical term. There's a formula to set up that income level that provides for a basis for exception and coming out through the school district as well. The length of the parcel tax, we're looking at a 5-year term for this. One of the things that doing it within this term too is the fact that the presidential election is the time when most people do vote. It gives you the best chance to really see, to go out to the community, the full community, and see. We thought too that a 5-year term gives us both that opportunity to come back to the community and perhaps just evaluate within the time, but look at 4 years and see what is the situation at that time, and gives us also the planning time to see. Even if this measure succeeds, as you know, the property taxes do lag. Property tax collections lag. It doesn't come, in November. It actually would follow from the property taxes that would collect in the next year's roll, so that it kind of lags that by that year. We wouldn't see anything then until probably December of next year if it should pass. So this gives us that. And the amount that we're asking is $199 per parcel. That equates to about $2 million in the city of San Bruno's size and the size of the school district. So, and just to put that in those terms, it does equate to $16.58 per month. One of the things to note, the November initiatives really are, it's a complicated matter in that sense, that there's a lot that we would want to do, but those November initiatives really, the solvency is king, and in this sense, if they should fail, the hit to the school district could be in the area of $1.5 million. already that kind of benches us to that set of $2 million on the expected side. Would be that level of savings given this year's budget, that amount looking forward to say, what protection do we need, but also the other things that we want to accomplish that we think are worthwhile within the community. If Measure G also fails, the prospects for the school district are in fact grim. We're looking to, the governor's allowed for more days now, perhaps, and now we're looking to possibly 20 school days or 4 weeks from the 2012-2013 school year. The impact of that would be huge throughout the community. 20 days less of school, which would have caused students to be considered truant, before, now would be all of a sudden just labeled acceptable. But also in the sense of childcare need to be provided. We were actually estimating, I think, that the cut the cut would actually almost be doubled, the $1.5 million to the school district, but also what people will spend trying to provide childcare for in that situation where that much school is not provided, can amplify that much. Also, we would look to the possibility of perhaps closing one or more neighborhood elementary schools in 2013-14. It's consequential. So the goals of Measure G, simply to maintain great neighborhood schools in San Bruno. Also provide excellent public education for the children of San Bruno. I think we have to realize that we do have excellent schools in San Bruno. We do stack up the programs at each individual school, and I know that so many of you have been involved many times in the school sites and see firsthand the quality that's provided there. And I think it's something to preserve, and protect. And so that's really our aim here. I guess we'd ask if you have any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Martinez or Dr. Sanchez? Irene?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. You said each parcel would be approximately $199.
Yes.
How is that determined? And is it each parcel?
It's just the parcel right on, from the county tax rolls. Yeah, it would be an indication to them that the parcel.
So it's not value of the house. It's not any of
Not
those
at
things.
all,
It's just
no.
plain old. Okay.
And in fact, it is one of those things. Parcel taxes themselves really can't, or money of this type that can be used for these kinds of purposes that are not related to building and so forth. This is the only opportunity that we have, would be a parcel tax done that way. Whereas a bond, the only way that you can do it would be based on the value of a house, but that has different uses. For this kind of use, it would be just one per parcel.
Okay. Yeah. And thank you.
For one
And
person.
do you need a 50% plus vote on this, or 2/3?
We do. We need a 2/3 vote. Yes, we need a 2/3 vote in San Bruno.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Riegel, did you have a question or comment?
I'd just like to say, when I was on the grand jury, we looked at the use of the Citizens Oversight Committee relative to bonds, and we heard a lot of the participants say that they felt that it was a rubber stamp. So I would hope that in their presentation as they go forward, and if it passes, that they utilize the Citizens Oversight in the process, not rubber stamping after the fact, because that was a real big concern that we heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you. Gentlemen, would you explain, past elections, we voted on bond measures, and that has been for buildings, for improvements. This is, and please state, I mean, this is the first measure that actually puts money into the classrooms.
Right. One of the things that the San Bruno Park School District Governing Board has made a priority is to protect the classroom. And in doing so, making all these cuts that you've seen in this span of 5 years with the budget shortfall from the state. So this is the first educational parcel tax in the history of San Bruno Park School District since February of 1907. And this becomes critical to maintain that quality and to provide the environment in which differentiated instruction that all children of all different educational levels and backgrounds and English language learners as well as socioeconomically disadvantaged students, because in this district, over 50% of the students that attend the San Bruno Park School Districts are in that situation. So it becomes critical to provide opportunity. That's what public education is all about. And this will provide that opportunity to make sure that no matter what socioeconomic group, what country you come from, what part of the city you come from, that you will get a 21st century education and become very productive in their own lives and be productive citizens, and maybe be on the city council somewhere, or a governing board, or President of the United States, or a doctor, or a scientist or engineer. This is what we're obligated to provide to all children of San Bruno.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation and your hard work on behalf of all of our students.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Item number 5, review of the agenda. If there's no objection, I would like to move item 11, which is report from our Park and Rec Commission, to right after item 8, public hearings. Item number 6, approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of September 11th, 2012, and special City Council closed session of September 11th, 2012. Any errors, corrections, omissions? Seeing none, to be approved as submitted. Item number 7 is the consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff.
Through the chair,
Michael?
I would like to comment on item G.
All right. Anything else? Any action on the rest of the items?
Move to approve the rest of the consent calendar
Second.
items.
Motion and second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item G is accept a resignation letter from Citizens Crime Prevention member, declare a committee member vacancy, and direct the city clerk to initiate the process for appointment of a new member. Michael?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Sonia for her service on the Crime Prevention Committee. I served with Sonia on that committee, and I think she was a great asset to that committee, and I just wanted to thank her for her time, and I'm sorry to hear that her other commitments won't make it possible for her to continue, but it does create an opportunity for other people. I know we've had a lot of applicants in the past for that committee, so I'm looking forward to someone else that's going to bring a little bit of livelihood to the committee. So that was it. So
Good. Move to approve. Would you like to move for approval?
I will move that item. Move to approve that item.
Second.
Motion second to approve item G on the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 8, public hearings. We don't have any public hearings. Now we will hear the report from Park and Rec Commission, which is item 11.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mike Palmer, and I'm the current chairperson for the Park and Recreation Commission. The photo on our first slide, the photo you're looking at is the Park and Rec Commission as it is right now. And several of my fellow commissioners are here. I'd like to take a brief moment just to introduce them. I have with me Commissioner Laura Davis, Commissioner Lucy Zamatea, Commissioner Lori Greenberg, and Commissioner Greg Pierce. Okay, thank you. I'd especially like to recognize Commissioner Stephen Marshall. Our report covers last fiscal year, and I'd like to especially recognize Stephen Marshall for his work as the commission chair during fiscal year 2011-2012. During the past year, we saw the culmination of several commission projects. One of these was the installation of a community recognition sculpture in City Park. This project gave our commission an opportunity to work with the Culture and Arts Commission over the past few years to select a site and sculpture appropriate for recognizing the contributions of many community members. As you know, the piece was installed in June, and first names were added on September 9th. The Park and Recreation Commission looks forward to being called upon to assist with the process of recognizing community members for their contributions to San Bruno. One of the areas that the Commission focused on during our facilities inspection was the intersection in front of the Veterans Memorial Recreation Center. The Commission has been very concerned about cars not being able to see small children stepping out into the street as they head from the rec center to the park and the playground across the street. Working with the staff from Community Services and Public Services Departments and the assistance of the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee, who developed a plan that has recently been implemented. By placing a red zone in front of the intersection and pushing the yellow zone closer to the pool building, we think the intersection is much more visible and safer for the children. Our annual inspection facilities also included Bel Air and Lions Fields. We found the Bel Air baseball field and concession stand to be in good shape, and we like the placement of the new restroom building. We'd like to congratulate Jim Thiel and all the Pony Baseball volunteers for their efforts. They really do a good job down there, keeping that place looking good. I get a chance to travel to other baseball fields. I'm the president of the Peninsula Colt League, and when you compare what we have in San Bruno due to Jim, you realize the value of it. The field between Bel Air's baseball field and Lions Field is a natural grass field that is used as a warm-up area for the baseball players and a practice field for San Bruno Rams youth football. We look forward to adding soccer to this field side by side with the soccer now on Lions Field. The other large facility project that the Commission has worked on and was completed this year is the Lions Field project. With the addition of synthetic grass to Lions Field, the community now has its first year-round outdoor athletic facility. This will allow for more use by youth and adults, generate new revenues, and decrease maintenance costs. The Commission conducted several meetings with community members and field users during the process and was pleased to be part of the dedication ceremony this past weekend. And just as a side to that, I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Ibarra for the first pitch being shoulder height, thereby enabling me to not bend over. Thank you very much. During our reviews of recreation finance and participation reports, we are pleased to see that the staff has been able to increase program participation and maintain a high level of cost recovery. Over the past few years, there's been an increase in recreation programs offered, and program participation numbers are at all-time highs, particularly for the youth programs. This is due to a deliberate effort of the Commission and the staff to provide a broad range of activities at an affordable cost while moving the programs towards a self-sustaining status. At the same time, revenues are doing very well, and the division is using less than 60% of general fund dollars that were allocated 3 years ago, and that's a huge plus. I think staff deserve a lot of credit there. For the upcoming year, the Commission has identified 5 goals. We'd like to help rebuild Earl and Glenview Park when the city is ready for that step in the Crestmore rebuilding process. We will conduct an inspection of Catalpa Park, Herman Park, Lamita Park, the Crestmore High School athletic fields, and Parkside Intermediate School fields. We will continue to assist the Lions Field user groups with fundraising efforts for a new restroom and snack shack facility. We will help with making improvements to the swimming pool and make improvements to the city park path. Representatives from the nonprofit field user groups recently held a meeting and outlined a few steps to fund and construct a snack shack and restroom facility in the location of the red box on this slide. This is Lions Field we're looking at. The Commission will continue to work with these groups and city staff to create a plan that we hope to present to the City Council early next year. Our last 2 goals for 2012-2013 were just recently brought to the attention of the Commission. The Health Department has required that the swimming pool fence have slats all the way around the pool. This will inhibit the view of the parents who sit in the bleachers to watch their children during lessons or recreation swim. The Commission is developing options for staff review to add seating and enhance the area around the pool. The City Park pathway currently surrounds Lions Field and Diamond 2. Residents sent us a letter concerned about the safety of young children learning to ride bicycles with a path that then cuts through the parking lot. The Commission is working with city staff to improve the safety. We feel that this is a great example of how the public can reach out to the Park and Rec Commission with concerns, and we encourage more people to do that at this time. and in the future. And that concludes our report. If we can be of any further assistance, please let us know.
Any questions or comments? I'd just like to say, as I always do with commissions, boards, and committees, that you are, in fact, the heart and soul of this whole community, because you're all volunteer and you do one great job, especially this year with the recognition sculpture and all of the work you did at this new synthetic field. It's just, it's fantastic, and the hours you put in, just want to thank you very, very much.
On behalf of the commission, we'd like to thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Item number 9 is public comment, items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? Mr. Rico?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Just like to bring the council and the viewing public up to date on a couple of things. The San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District reported last week that they had confirmation of a West Nile virus positive bird in Foster City. They had actually they had 2 in Foster City and 1 in El Granada. They have set traps to collect mosquitoes for testing around all 3 sites. City of San Francisco also reported they found a positive bird near City College. Remember to dump all standing water and report freshly killed birds and squirrels to 1-877 West Nile virus WNV bird, and questions on the San Mateo County birds should be directed to the district at 344-8592. And the district and I would like to thank you and the San Bruno Cable for continuing to run updates on found West Nile virus positives and reminding their viewers to dump all standing waters. So far there have been no positives found in San Mateo County, and especially here in San Bruno. And secondly, the PG&E line 101 that runs just east of the 7th Avenue property line still has a section exposed. PG&E and some of the agency parties met on site over a week ago and discussed installing a temporary fence to protect this exposed pipe section, but even with the support of Congresswoman Spears' office and Assemblyman Hill's office, this protective fence still has not been erected. And lastly, the other hat that I'm wearing tonight is the San Bruno Chamber wants to remind you that next Tuesday, instead of coming to a council meeting that wouldn't have been scheduled anyhow, from 6 to 8, they are holding the 5th annual Taste of San Bruno in the upstairs in the Park and Rec, where you can come and sample various food items from a number of the restaurants in and around San Bruno, and we have some good raffle prizes and just good reason to come out and mingle with San Bruno people. So thank you very much for your support.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Anyone else under public comment? All right, move right on to item number 10, conduct of business. The first item is A, receive an oral report and approve design concept for decorative archway on the Caltrain grade separation structure.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, there are several I hope, efficiently cobbled together pieces to this presentation. I will start. Mark Simon from the Caltrain JPB will make some comments, and then we have one of the representatives of the design team that has worked with both the JPB and with the city to put together some design concepts for a decorative feature on the San Bruno grade separation. Will speak as well. My purpose in the first set of comments is to give you a little bit of history and background about what this item is, where it came from, and why it's important to the city of San Bruno. As the council is well aware, our engagement in the design of the San Bruno grade separation actually began just about a decade ago. That process began with, among other things, the establishment of a Citizens Advisory Committee that met and worked very hard over a period of about 2.5 years, hand in hand with the JPB, with Caltrain staff and their consultants, to envision what this elevated rail structure safety improvement. And again, remember this whole project originated with an urgent safety need, a need to elevate the tracks in order to make train travel and vehicle travel more efficient and safe. In that process, one of the key issues that our citizen advisors and the City Council and your staff have consistently identified is the need for the structure not only to be a transportation improvement, but because it sits at a very key location right in the heart of the entryway and the downtown of San Bruno, that structure be recognized as an opportunity to establish a sense of place and identity for the community, a gateway, if you will. Early in those discussions with the citizen advisors, the concept of an archway feature was introduced as a possible decorative element that would would meet those objectives, that would create a sense of identity and place, and would be a key element in our ongoing efforts to revitalize and make sure that our downtown and our central core of the community area is revitalized and that it thrives. A subcommittee of the City Council consisting of now Mayor Ruane and Vice Mayor Ibarra were assigned early on to shepherd this process and to represent the City Council in this very important dialogue as it wound its way through the years. And they have followed that process since the very beginning. More recently, after a period of years where the Great Separation Project went on hiatus, it was reemerged when the Caltrain leadership was able to actually accelerate the starting of construction, and now we are very pleased that the project is well underway. You can see what it's going to look like. You can see what a presence it has within the downtown of San Bruno. And as this process has moved forward, it has become increasingly urgent that all of the design details for the project, and particularly for the structure itself, are absolutely finalized so that the project is able to move forward to a timely and efficient completion. With that in mind, approximately a year ago, the city and the JPB collaborated to hire a design team to look at the various structural and aesthetic elements of the project and the structure as it was moving forward, and to identify how a gateway aesthetic feature could be included on the completion of the actual construction of the project. The design team of Field Paoli was jointly hired by the city and the JPB, and they have worked with our subcommittee and with staff, and for a short time with some citizen advisors originally who were part of the CAC, the Citizen Advisory Committee, to come up with some design concepts, recommendations, and ultimately for a project that could be endorsed by you and then ultimately made part of the Great Separation. As I indicated, the subcommittee has met with the design team. We've provided input, and more recently, as this process worked its way, I guess I would say, away a bit from the basic concept of an archway as the decorative feature, the subcommittee brought that concept back, and we have recently had a series of what I would call very productive meetings with JPB and with the design team to put together design concepts that we're here tonight to ask for your comment and ultimately for your endorsement in order that the JPB, the design team, and the city can evaluate the additional detailed level of completion of the design, and ultimately funding and integration into the final construction of the grade separation project. So you have in the packet tonight, unfortunately, because this process was really ongoing until the very last part of last week, you have in your packet a preliminary snapshot of the discussion item that we'll be talking with you tonight about. And tonight is an opportunity for both for you to weigh in with comments, but also to express your endorsement, if you will, of the design concept so that we can move this project forward in an expedient and expedient, timely manner and avoid potential delay to the grade separation project itself. So with that, I will ask Mark Simon on behalf of the JPB and Caltrain to make some comments, and then we have the design team has a PowerPoint presentation that will walk you through a fair number of the details of the design concept and allow you to ask questions and make comments.
Thank you. Good evening. Always a pleasure to be here. And before we begin, I want to thank the City of San Bruno for going ahead with the grade separation project, and thank you for your patience as we have undertaken what everybody can affirm is a pretty disruptive process of building this grade separation. But it is moving very quickly. As you can see every time you drive by it, it's really starting to take some significant form now, and it's going to be a landmark. And we have been in concurrence all along that the city should have something that sort of puts the mark of San Bruno on it. That's really why we are where we are. To expand a little bit on some of the things that the city manager alluded to, we are in a very, very tight time frame. We don't have a lot of time left to make these decisions. It may seem unfair to come to you and say that to you under these circumstances, but we've spent a lot of time working on this project, working on this particular part of the project, and getting it to the point it's at now. We're hopeful that you can find it yourselves comfortable with what we're going forward with, but we're running out of time. So the schedule is very tight. The second issue is budget. We haven't had a meaningful and firm conversation with city staff or the subcommittee about the total budget for this and how we're going to pay for it. And that will be the next urgent question. We have only a couple of weeks within which we have to enter into a funding agreement with the city to go ahead and do this, and by mid to late October, we have to have identified the funding to pay for this. And as I said to the subcommittee at a meeting last week, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. We're going to have to figure that out. I am confident, given the ability of Caltrain and the city to work together, that we'll find a way. But right now, the way isn't clear yet. Before I go any farther, I want to make sure you know that Raphael Bolin, the construction manager, is also here in case you have any questions. You're all familiar with him by now. And Ash Galani, who is our project manager, is also here. So should there be any questions related to the schedule, particularly about the time frame in which we have to operate, they're better equipped to respond to that than I am. We're very happy to have Field Paoli here. They did some terrific work under really trying circumstances, some tight deadlines, some going back and forth on the concept as we tried to sort out what made the most sense for San Bruno. So without any further ado, let me introduce Dan Corson, who is the public artist, which is a great job title, public artist for Field Paoli, and he's going to present the concept of the Archway project.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mayor and City Council. So wanted to step back here and talk a little bit about the project goals, and really, this is really about enhancing the visibility and identity of San Bruno with a new signature element here. These are some of the words that we heard when we were discussing with the community about how to identify this community. Here we are in our proposed site. You see this conjunction area here. And this is where we are right now. This was just taken just last week. So you can see that we're really quite far ahead, and it's going to be quite a dramatic work here. This is actually the underpass area that you'll see on some of our renderings with these the sidewalls here, just now going up. So our proposed design concept again, starting back now with an arch gateway on the east side of the elevated platform side. We're looking at no changes to the shelters, to the railings, to the ramps, or the finishes. We're looking at a flat arch, and then that arch, because of the bulb out of the platform area, it needs to be supported by these curving vertical support elements. So we'll go over that in detail a little bit later. We're going to be using typical guard posts between the posts, and we'll also be using the existing windscreen. So we've got quite a few different views, so you can look at it from different areas. The colors right now are something that we're kind of working through with the team with a lot of different elements. This is approaching the site at San Bruno area, an aerial shot. You can see that we have a glazing system going on the tower adjacent to it. You can see with a massing build out kind of how it can kind of hold its own in the space, especially if the color is more pronounced. A view from the northeast. As you're looking at here, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One of the things is the height of the arch itself is limited by some physical characteristics of the way that the trains are running. Those OCS wires, the overhead catenary system wires, limit our height of the arch. They can't be within 10 feet of it. And because of where it is, that's about as tall of an arch as we can get in the space. Instead, because we didn't want it to be a diminutive arch, we took those arches and extended them all the way to the ground. This way we connected the upper station with kind of what's happening on the ground plane and made it a larger arch as well. This is a little detail. On the top there you see kind of a curving arch. You see an I-beam that's kind of holding some plexiglass, and then outside of that is a colored perforated metal screening. And then you see in plan you have this arch section with these arches kind of leaning over the people. And here's an idea what we're talking about. So you can see the arch, and then you can see the supports of the arch that need to actually curve out. And the reason, again, is because of the bulb out condition of the platform area, and we have a flat arch. So that allows us to have this kind of feeling that's going across there. Approaching from the upper plaza, this is a view that we have, and from the other side. Now, from the west side, you'll note that this is really what you see. So there's not a great sense of understanding that this is an archway. It's only really from the other side that you see this. From the station platform area, this is what you see. Right now, we're looking at modifying the I-beam so that we have a similar perforated steel screen that would be on both sides, so you get a similar sort of characteristic. Again, we're looking at this as being colored plexiglass, quite thin colored plexiglass. This is clear. And then we would have a perforated material. We're looking at the dimensions and size of the perforations right now, but you'll be able to see color that moves through this so that during the daytime it gets a backlit situation in some areas, and then at night it gets illuminated with LEDs behind. So you get one color on the front surface, and then you get another color that happens behind. And like a George Seurat painting with a whole bunch of little points, your eyes start blending the colors. And as you get closer, you see this kind of almost pixelation of color when you see the two things together. So here's an example with the red and that. So that happens supported by an I-beam, and then steel posts will be able to support the whole thing. These are some initial color samples that we've been playing around with. In this circumstance, the perforated steel has a gradated pattern on it, and the background color would be the same. this is a blue and yellow scheme. You can see that the color that happens along the glass tower matches what ends up happening along the archway. And this is a blue and white scheme. Again, the perforated metal. Now, we're looking at a custom perforation pattern, and we're going to be kind of working on that design next week. Some examples of custom perf. So some additional parts of this, we've started with this color glazing that would happen at the at the elevator tower. So it really gives this presence both during the daytime and at the nighttime, and it kind of collects, it allows the colors to kind of move across. The other thing is you get kind of a nice curved element, and you've got a vertical element right next to each other. The other thing is we have a current paving patterns that's kind of very active, and we're simplifying that. So it's going to be, I think, kind of more subtle and subdued. And then we have a water fountain that is in the current design, and we're removing that and creating it more as a proposed planter. That way, kind of reducing overall running costs and kind of making a nice green statement there that will be useful kind of all season round. We're also looking at the potential for doing a pedestrian enhancement at the underpass. We feel it's an area that we need to study a little bit more, that it is a place that a lot of people are going to be walking. It's going to be an important place to feel safe and secure and interesting. So we wanted to make sure that there was some attention to detail that was brought into that area. And we also wanted just to show you what would happen if we end up putting an arch on both sides. Right now, we don't have the funding to do this, but we've thought that if you look at it from this side, it really kind of transforms the site in a significant way. And we thought it was helpful for you just to at least look at it from both sides. That's all. We'll be happy to answer some questions and to share these materials around.
Good. Any questions? Comments? Ken and I have seen this numerous times, the last, in different iterations. We want to get the feedback from the rest of the council. Michael?
Thank you, Jim. Personally, I don't really like it. Yeah, I think there was an opportunity here to make a structure that is attractive in itself. Instead, I think we're getting an unattractive structure and then tacking on a colored piece of plastic on the front of it and hoping that that makes it look better. I don't get it. And I know these things are a matter of opinion, but you know, I would question the how enduring a design like this would be. Yeah, I'm sure when City Hall was designed, people thought, wow, that's a really modern, great-looking building, but we look at it now and it looks kind of funky and dated. In 10 years, are people going to look at this and say, what were they thinking back then? It's not, I don't know, it just looks too contemporary, and I would have preferred to see something that's more traditional, more, I don't know, that's something that stands the test of time. I mean, there are really, I mean, if you look at some older buildings, they still look good. I mean, 100 years later, you can look at it and there's no question that it's an attractive building. This, I don't see that happening. I don't get it.
Irene?
It's very difficult to sit up here and make comments about this after all the work that the subcommittee went through, and Caltrains and the artists. Frankly, when I first looked at it, when it was in our agenda packet, I didn't get it either. I get it a little bit better now that I've seen the materials that they're proposing and some of the additional views. Frankly, it doesn't excite me, but at this point, I don't know what our options are. It's really difficult to sit here and say yes or no when there's no other option to say yes to. So that it's kind of like we could say no, but it doesn't mean anything because there's nothing to say yes to, I guess is the other part. It's like I kind of get it. I was looking on websites for other archways and other buildings, public art buildings that are public areas that had arches and what they did and what people did. And some are timeless, like the Seattle archway. Some can get dated. I guess that the second piece is if you say no to this, what happens? We don't do anything. I mean, it's either yes or what are options? Or do we have any?
It's a matter of timing. I mean, the design team has been kind of looking at a number of different things. We have been asked to proceed with this one, and so that's why the others have been kind of pushed off to the side. Yeah.
There's no question that we're constrained by both time and cost. And the subcommittee did spend a lot of time working on a lot of different options. And it led ultimately to this one. It wasn't, sometimes it was a little bit of a bumpy ride, but some of it is being driven by, we don't have a lot of time to make a lot of other decisions. And that's part of the unfortunate reality of where we're at. I wish I had a better answer for you. And you know, I feel badly for the council members who are seeing this for the first time because it's a lot to decide in a short period of time under a tight time constraint. And I appreciate that. If we had another choice, just in terms of the amount of time we could provide for you, we would. But we're at a point in construction where some of the things we want to do have to be done now, or it's going to cost a lot more money that we don't have and use up time that we don't have either. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Well, through the chair. So if a majority of the council says, no, we don't like this, just hypothetically, then, and there's no other options for artwork, then does that mean there's no artwork, there's no arch, there's nothing? Is that?
Boy, I'd really rather not answer that question tonight.
Okay, I'll let it sit.
One of the things we have tried to avoid doing is making it about ultimatums or take it or leave it. We're not trying to present it to you that way. But we don't have a lot of time left. And so if we're going to make any significant changes to it, there are two issues you have to consider. One is the cost. Make major changes, the cost is going to go up for something that has not yet been funded or the funds for it identified. And it costs us time, which ultimately costs money. So, you know, if you put me on the spot, I'd rather not answer that question, but it is, there aren't a lot of other choices available to us.
May I?
Why don't we hear from Mr. Medina first?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do know the subcommittee spent a lot of time, and I'm sure that had we looked back to what we started with to where we are, there's been great progress. I'm certainly not a design, architect, artist by any standards. So I would share with what the councilman said when, you know, it didn't wow me. It didn't, I'm not enthused by it, let's put it that way. A lot of time has been spent on it, and unfortunately, it always sounds like we're about out of time to do anything and any alternative with it. The fountain was the first time I'd heard that there was no fountain. I thought there was a fountain. So, and there may have been something that I've missed along the way. We have an unknown cost that I know that is driving this too, as far as what we can and can't do, but really cost has been brought forward. So, yeah.
Just to clarify real quick, there is a fountain on the other side.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that's where that fountain went. So, it's on the other side. So there is a fountain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, on the west side in the Posey Park area.
Okay, thank you. So the fountain's there. So I don't know what the other options were. I don't know what the succession of progress was on this, but I will say too. I mean, it doesn't wow me, and I look at this as a large project that a lot of time and effort has gone in, and there's a lot of reasons why this project's happening, and this is going to be an area that's supposed to be the center of town with a transit corridor around it. I think we're going to have one opportunity to do it, but then again, we're driven by cost. So I'm sitting up here wrestling with it as well, because I know you don't want to answer the question, but I kind of feel in a corner and saying if not this, then nothing, and if not now, when? Maybe never. So anyway.
City Manager.
If I could just clarify, and I'm sure, Mark, you can correct me if I misstate this, but I would like to just attempt to respond to the what if it's not this, then what? The design team has identified and developed a number of different alternatives which were reviewed by the subcommittee and which have been worked to a pretty significant level of at least visual detail. The drawings are pretty clear. Those are options that would not be attached to the separation structure itself. So the concept of a public art, a gateway feature, not attached to the grade separation structure and not an archway, still, I believe, offers some number of fairly well-developed ideas and potentially other ideas. So I think I would just want to make sure that the council understands that it was the interest and the effort to move the conversation back towards an archway attached to the separation structure itself that resulted both in this time situation as well as this design concept. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and to reiterate something the city manager noted earlier, the Citizens Advisory Committee that worked on this and was actively involved in designing it had as their choice an archway that was part of the grade separation structure. One of the reasons we had to hire a design firm is because we couldn't work out how to do so in a way that wouldn't also run afoul of the overhead catenary wires and turn it into one large voltage trap for everybody who might wander near it. So there were some physical issues that had to be worked out and some brainstorming that took place. The only optimistic view I can offer you, perhaps, Councilman Medina, is that I think we're all surprised at how the thing looks now. That it doesn't look, in my case, like I thought it was going to look. It's sort of more dramatic. And what I'm hoping is that once something gets farther along and there's some aesthetic things that the designers can do, your wow quotient might go up a little bit. So that's my optimistic spin on it.
Okay.
My turn. The irony is that what Mark has said is that 10 years ago, it was a consensus as to what we wanted, what the vision of this grade separation ultimately wanted to be, whether it was driving right up to it or whether it was seeing it run when you came off of Highway 101. It was the statement. And I've seen archways, I've seen them all over the world, and archways make that statement of place, of symbol of transportation and such. I try to think that I am, I can envision, the finished product and go along, keep an open mind with the designers. I was not seeing that type of statement with what was coming before us with separate designs, not part of the grade separation. We grappled with it and we made the decision to go back to some form of an arch on the structure. And I believe this is using your term, a contemporary form of the arch, whether it's a trellis, structure, whether it's actually an arch bridge structure that you see, in overpasses, most notably the pedestrian overpass in Berkeley, that resembles this, that resembled what the artist's rendition had, previously on this structure. I see the details. My experience tells me that this is going to be something that I can be proud of, that is going to be, something that's going to be a statement. We made some comments that, let's get away from, the perceived flimsiness of it. Let's, make it a little bolder in statement. I'm not buying some of the colors yet, but that's something that we have to get to. But I truly like, the way it has blended in with the structure, how it's anchored, and the proportions of it. You look at anything else, you'd have to look at this thing at the way it is, without it, and then look at something else, as part of maybe the elevator structure, but definitely not part of the overpass. So the mayor and I, for 10 years, have envisioned, not necessarily a statement, but just the safety and seeing an overpass here. And I think this is the icing on the cake, and it will, and it will truly make a statement for our town, and make that statement that we're here.
We have been working for quite a period of time, as Ken said, well over 10 years with the CAC from its infancy to where we are today, with shovels in the ground and concrete being poured and steel being laid, and it's been quite a ride, I can tell you that. But we had some discussions over this last year with some design concepts that were, frankly, in my mind, pretty far out. Some that weren't attached. We had water features that showed up when there weren't water features planned. We had all different kinds of things going on. And ultimately, we went full circle and came back to what the CAC said that they wanted, which was an archway to designate you're in San Bruno. We may not be able to do it on the west side. It'd be nice in the future, but on the east side, I think we need something to welcome people and let them know where they are, and something that's going to make a statement for many, many years to come. So we decided last Thursday, actually, that this sketch, which was done on a napkin, frankly, after we pretty much rejected all of the other designs that were put before us, to go back with what we thought was the original intent of everyone. Now, the arch is the arch. We have some physical constraints with the catenaries, the electrical wires that are eventually going to power Caltrain in the future. Sure, it'd be nice to make it bigger and more substantial. It's not going to happen, but it is something that's attached to our structure that, in fact, I think will highlight the entrance to our city. We haven't decided on colors yet. They have some very preliminary proposals on perforated metals and different types of materials, also backlighting in the evening so that they will be LED lit, this whole structure. And I think it's not as substantial as maybe something that you might see in St. Louis, if you will, but it is in fact a welcome. It's light, it's airy, and the lighting itself, as well as the materials that are going to be finalized shortly, will in fact make it a substantial statement of what I think we really wanted as of over 10 years ago. So we do have some constraints, and my fear at the time last Thursday was that, boy, we're going to put this right on the council without having a whole lot of other discussion, preliminary visits to different structures or architectural renderings, but and that shows this evening, obviously. But we worked very, very hard to get to where we are. We went with an arch in the beginning, and we're all the way back to an arch. It's a little different than what we probably wanted as far as substance, but it is what it is, and we are in fact restricted by a lot of construction constraints Just like, people are saying, is it going to be like the ones down the peninsula? Well, they don't have a BART box to worry about, for instance. So our structure is not near as high as I thought it was going to be or looked like it was going to be, but we're limited physically. But I think in the bigger picture, what we worked on is what we have here tonight. There are some very fine changes that have to be made, and colors are not exactly what I'd like to see, but that can be worked on. I think in substance, we have to agree tonight or disagree tonight that this is what we want as an entrance to our city going forward.
Jim, can I make
Michael?
another comment? Thank you. I just wanted to temper my earlier remarks, and I certainly meant no disrespect to the committee, and I know that this is something that's been going on for a long time, and I'm the new guy up here, and you guys have been working really hard, and it didn't mean any disrespect to the designers of this either. I guess if this was intended to invoke an emotional reaction, it certainly did, and so I apologize if my comments
Not
were...
the one we wanted.
Yeah. So, the last comment I would make on this is, given other concepts that we've seen for the downtown area, which in my opinion seemed a little more conservative and sort of fit in with my vision of what I think of when I think of San Bruno. And this seems to depart from that dramatically. So as that area develops, as we certainly hope it will, I'm wondering, if this is going to blend with whatever else we do. And thinking along those same lines, I'm wondering that as we get developers interested in this location, could we possibly work with developers to do something later on and not have to make a decision on this and have them then build us something along the train station or part of the train station that matches whatever new developments we're going to be having there at some future time?
Just to respond to that question, it's a very interesting concept. First of all, that there would be additional public art and or use of a theme, maybe it might be where you're going in terms of the build out of the transit corridor specific plan in that area. I think the short answer to the question is yes, that could be something that is factored into our development approval process in the form of some sort of development requirement or development funding requirement. I just restate something I said earlier too, which is that this discussion really was prompted by the urgency of finalizing construction of the structure itself. And so I think there is still an opportunity, in addition to tasking the development community with future improvements near or at the grade separation area, that there is also an opportunity, if the council is not set on something being attached to and part of the structure itself, there's still an opportunity through this process to design and establish something on the grounds of the elevated structure.
Thank you.
Yes.
From the design team's perspective, as you just mentioned, Mayor, we were working on napkin sketches last week on this.
Right.
And I hear the desire for a wow factor, and I believe as a team we can certainly bring that to the project. The issue is we got down to this kind of one thing that we needed to look at and get to you as far as the arch concept, and we felt that we needed to present something to you for this meeting, and I think that this is a beginning of a conversation, and that we're able to kind of proceed with developing more wow into this design, but I wanted to just say that it doesn't have to be a done thing as it is right now as far as the design team's perspective.
Mark.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd call on Robert.
If we're going to do some wow, how much wow time do we have?
Well, it depends on what you do. I mean, there's certainly the kinds of demonstrations that Dan made don't really begin to describe what can be done to make it look more substantial and to really make it stand out in a way that perhaps satisfies. You know, you want people to pull off the freeway, look up and go, wow, or simply to say, oh, it's San Bruno, and I got to tell you, no other city has something quite like this. So I think that there are things they can do just within the design of the archway. But to echo something Dan said, I don't think that has to be the end of what happens. I think once the archway is built, and as the city manager is indicating, there's an opportunity to do a lot of other things that are in concert with that, or an expansion of that, or extension of that, or even for the sake of art in contradiction to it. So I think, you know, we're eager to see the rest of the finalized design. But at some point or another, we have to figure out how we do that, how quickly we can do it, and the question I have to keep coming back to, which is how we're going to pay for it. And the design characteristics, the additional design elements, all of them add cost to the project, some of them more so than others, and time always results in additional cost.
Robert, you've been kind of through this whole project too.
That's what I was going to say. I sat in on the majority of the Archway subcommittee works. We looked at some real outlandish concepts. It came back to if we needed to attach it basically to the structure, we had a lot of limitations. As Mark said, we were limited to the height, so we could not do a real elaborate. I could support this if we are going to attach it to the structure now. If we're not, as Connie said, and we want to do something more freestanding, then we have other options. But I think we wanted an arch. We felt that we couldn't go too high. We couldn't have a big hanging part that had stuff coming down. So I could support the proposal that's before you now, but there's some work that obviously still needs to be done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, in concept, do you support the arch attached to the structure?
I'll go ahead and say, based on some of the comments, and Mark, thank you for stepping up and the architect. I know there's a lot of work and time has been spent, and Jim and Ken. I know we have to have something that's going forward. We're talking about maybe modifying colors, that this isn't the end. You know, I know we have to go forward, and I'm here to build consensus as when I first started up here, but you know, I can go with the concept, but again, the wow, which I guess it's we'll have that as a new architectural term, the wow factor.
I've been using it for years.
Okay, good. The colors, there's just things that I think need to be improved upon from what is being presented tonight.
Irene?
I like the concept of the archway attached to the structure. And if you assure me that you will look for ways to make it more wowy, I guess, I will add my yes to what's happening. You had a drawing that you showed me up here that showed a strip of the same type of metal under the archway with lights behind it to tie it all together. Is that the kind of added detail that we would be able to look forward to? Is that kind of some of the things you're looking at?
I believe it was your set of drawings.
I think you're talking about a slide that was also in the presentation that showed a band
Was that
in
what it
the
was?
pedestrian
Yes, I guess
underpass at the
In the
very,
pedestrian
very
area?
end,
Yes.
very end of the presentation.
Okay. If that's the case, yes, we would be kind of working on all that. But of course, we're balanced by a very narrow budget. So the question is kind of where we distribute the funds, and the more sites that we distribute the funds, the less we can put on your wow factor. So it's a balancing act. And hearing these priorities from you would be very, very important today.
The
That's okay. He
the
knows up
tunnel
there.
lighting
One-
could be, the tunnel lighting could be added later, right?
This?
There.
Is this what you're
I
talking
mean,
about?
not the
Yes.
lighting, but the feature strip, we'll call it, could be added later.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It wouldn't affect any of the structure of the grade SEP or anything. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And develop this more than this, obviously.
Okay.
You're not just seeing a strip here. You know, it's.
No, I realize that. I was just trying to gauge how far you were taking the concept or were thinking of taking the concept. Okay. Thank you.
Michael?
Well, I know where this is going, but I hope I'm wrong and this looks better than I think it will, but I can't get behind this.
Okay. Sorry. Ken?
My last comment is that I think maybe I wasn't strong enough, you know, to show, you know, as far as my opinion on the color, and it's probably, in hindsight, I probably should have said, don't present this color. Because when you look at it from this vantage point, from the distance, it looks like ribbon. It looks paper thin. What sold me was those, you know, the other slides. And being a design professional, I could see the structure. I can tell how it was being put together. I can tell that it had some beefiness to it, that it had some detail to it. And then putting that together with the materials, the lighting, and such, I had an inner wow. So I can't guarantee that you're going to like it. I can't guarantee that half the people around here are going to like it. But I think this is what resembles what that community, you know, that committee wanted. And I believe, just like, you know, Mr. Simon has said, no one else has this. You have, if you want a Belmont grade separation, if you want a San Carlos grade separation, then we can take it off. This is something that we will work towards to try to maybe make it a little more conservative so that it can stand the time. But in time, you know, people are going to recognize San Bruno as the arch, you know, and that's going to be, you know, something that, you know, will be lost if we don't put it on there.
Okay, so what do you need from us? I think you have consensus that 4 out of 5 agree that we're going in the right direction, and you've taken some copious notes, I see. Yes. Right.
The only other thing that I would ask is that you have this discussion about funding as soon as possible.
Right.
And that you also perhaps create a hierarchy of needs, meaning that if you feel that most of the resources, if you want a bigger wow factor, that needs to be, that we need to rob money in the end from the underway passageway to get to the big archway. Are you willing to do that? Or do you feel that all 3 of these elements need to be shown? It's just a discussion that you need to have internally when it comes to the money decisions.
Okay, thanks. And Mark, I believe you're working on some estimates right now?
Yeah, Phil Pioli has begun putting together some preliminary estimates of the construction costs, but we'll still have to vet that with Granite and our design firm HNTB, and also factor in the additional soft costs that might be incurred by both the city and Caltrain to make this thing happen. So we'll begin working on that immediately. We'll move as quickly as we can, and we'll begin meeting very shortly with the city staff and the city manager to begin discussing coming up with a final budget number so we can begin addressing how we pay for it once we've hit a number. The costs estimates will be itemized so that there'll be additional elements that you can see and see how much additional they'll cost. And some of them will be things that don't have to be done right now, could be done later, like the pedestrian underpass. So it isn't going to be quite as stark as well, it might be, because God knows I've made it sound that way, but there's some ability to make this ideally closer to something you'd be comfortable with. But we'll see where we end up, and we'll work on the funding questions almost immediately.
Okay. City Manager, do you need anything else from us?
I do not. What I would envision is a conversation in the very short term with the subcommittee about how you want to move forward to address some of these design details, taking into consideration the full interest and comments that we've received from the City Council tonight.
Okay.
And perhaps a study session that might include color as a discussion point.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 10B, receive a biannual report on the city's investment portfolio.
Honorable Mayor and council members, as you know, every year the city's investment portfolio is presented to the council for review. As of June 30, the city had on deposit the following: 15.8 million with the San Mateo County Investment Pool, 16.2 million with the Local Agency Investment Fund, and 10.5 million on deposit at Union Bank. Those are individual securities. The portfolio has experienced a significant amount of turnover as creditors have taken advantage of low interest rates by refinancing their existing debt. As a result, the city has had several bond positions called early, and for all three accounts, the average yield has been approximately 1%. It is important to note that all city holdings are income-oriented, and these yields are in line with current market rates. In its most recent statement, the Federal Reserve expressed the desire to keep interest rates at their current levels for the foreseeable future. Indeed, the current rates are also being kept at current levels worldwide. In the past year alone, there have been 259 rate easing moves by various central banks. This is being done to support a generally weak economic recovery that would be compromised by higher interest rates. I bring these facts to light because I believe it supports the realistic expectations that current levels of interest rates are to be in place for at least the next 2 years. In April of this year, as you know, the city settled with PG&E, resulting in a transfer of $68,750,000 into an account at Wells Fargo. The city is acting as a temporary custodian for these funds until a nonprofit is organized. Once in place, this nonprofit will assume control of these monies. Currently, that portfolio consists of 3-, 6-, and 9-month T-bills in accordance with the investment policy adopted by the council. As these securities mature, a similar duration security is purchased. This laddered portfolio is intended for maximum flexibility for the nonprofit once it is established, and to assure the safety of the principal amount. Should the council wish to explore other investment options, the Treasurer's Office stands ready to do so. And that concludes my report.
Any questions of our city treasurer?
Through the chair.
Michael.
John, given or specifically related to the PG&E fund, would you have any recommendations for us or suggestions of something we could do differently?
I think that question is better answered once the nonprofit is established and the goals for the money are more clearly defined. If they want to treat it as like a university endowment type of investment portfolio, I would certainly not be doing this, no question about it. At this point, I think the return of the principal is a little bit more important than the return on the principal, because we're acting as a custodian, right? So once a nonprofit's established and they provide direction, then I certainly would be more, could give you a better advice on what to do with the money.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you posed a question to us, I had to pose it back.
Oh, no, I understand. I understand. So, no, I think 3, 6, or 9-month T-bills in this environment, you're not necessarily keeping pace with inflation. So, but at the point, like I said, the return of the principal is more important than the return on at this point, until the board is established and they provide direction again, if they want to treat it like an endowment, that certainly would be a lot different portfolio makeup than what we have now,
Okay.
without question.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments for John? All right. Thank you very much. Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of 66 Glock handguns and related safety equipment from LC Action Police Supply in the amount of $44,712.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Providing you the report tonight is Lieutenant Tim Mahon, who has extensive experience in our department's range program.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. You hear me okay? Mm-hmm. The purpose of this staff report is to request the replacement of 66 handguns that have been in use since 2000 and were slated for replacement in 2010. The current firearms are in need of replacement or comprehensive refurbishing. Police Department range staff has researched specifications of several firearms manufacturers and models and has found a suitable replacement for officers' duty weapons. Due to the configuration, the new firearms and holsters and magazines will also need to be replaced. A gun-mounted light is also being requested as it will enhance officer safety during low-light situations. The recommended replacement firearm is the Glock 21 pistol for the uniformed personnel and the Glock 30 compact pistol for plainclothes personnel. The Glock pistol was a unanimous choice of the range staff and is the most commonly used firearm amongst law enforcement departments today. A notice inviting bids for the purchase of these firearms and related equipment was distributed by the Finance Department, and a total of 2 bids were received. The total purchase cost, based on the lowest bid from LC Action Supply, is $44,712 for the firearms and related equipment. $44,000 is identified in the current budget, including funds from the Equipment Reserve and Asset Forfeiture Fund. There are sufficient asset forfeiture funds to cover the additional $712 not identified in the budget. The vendor does offer a trade-in discount of the old firearms of $376 per gun. Staff is not recommending this option as there are no guarantees or control over where these guns will go and who will end up with them. Staff is recommending that the officers be provided the option to purchase their used duty weapon from the city for $200, which will offset some of the purchase costs of the new firearms. The vendor is able to give us a higher trade-in value due to the substantial purchase price and retailer's discount. Staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of 66 firearms and related equipment from LC Action Police Supply in the amount of $44,712.
Any questions?
To the
Rico?
Chair. Lieutenant, I do like the Chief, the idea of the mounted light. I think it's a good safety feature, so we don't have officers trying to maintain a light as well as their gun. I'm glad to see that it went to the range and that there was others involved in the process to have a collective decision by the department. The one question I had is obviously as far as the grip is concerned, we have female, male officers. Obviously, everybody's hand size is different. How is the grip as far as for the staff, and is it pretty universal or?
Well, this is the newest generation of the Glock. It has the ability to interchange the back straps of the grip to make it smaller or larger to better fit the officer's hand. And obviously, the better comfort and fit for the officer, the more likely they are to be accurate and have more confidence in the firearm.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Through the chair. The chief was kind enough to answer most of my technical questions before the meeting, but I had an issue with the buyback recommendation because this company is offering almost half the price of the new weapons in return, and that could definitely help our bottom line in preserving what we have in reserves. I would imagine that this company is bound by whatever federal, state regulations exist in terms of how they can dispose of them, and they would have to follow the requirements of running background checks and anything before they were to change ownership of those guns. So I don't think it would be necessarily a huge security risk in turning those weapons over to the company. And given that the weapons that we're retiring are, they've got a good amount of wear, enough that we wouldn't want the officers in the field using them. I don't know how desirable they would be to the officers to purchase those back, and so we'd probably end up destroying most of them and losing the value. So that would be the only concern I would have in terms of what's being recommended in the report.
Right, and I understand your concerns. I believe probably over half the officers would probably purchase their weapons. The concern we have about selling them to LC Action is, as I stated, we have no control over who they are sold to, and yes, they will be background checked, but as we know from prior experiences that guns that were in the hands of law enforcement ended up in the hands of criminals and were used in some heinous crimes, and that's our main concern is they don't end up in those people's hands.
Okay. Irene?
Thank you. We had this, if I'm remembering correctly, we had a policy discussion about that very issue many years ago now. I had to think how many. And that was a consensus of the council at the time that we didn't want those guns going back out into the public. However, whatever process it might have been, and I believe it was after some, do you guys remember? It was after some kind of tragedy that had happened where police officers' guns had been sold back and they were used on the police officers. So that was something that happened a long time ago that triggered part of that. So it wasn't just a police officer's decision, it was a council discussion at the time as well. And another thing we had discussed at the time, and I apologize I didn't get back to you to ask you directly, we had also talked about there's a process where they melt down the guns, and some cities use that to make a public art piece, you know, some kind of, I know, but it's, some people do, and I think it would be art. I think it would be an appropriate thing to do, so.
That is possible. There are state and federal laws that govern when and how we can destroy those guns, and I don't know how much steel would be there afterwards. That'd be something that could be explored, I guess.
Okay. I know some cities have done it, and I'll be happy to look into it.
Through the chair, though, Lieutenant, you had indicated that if it was offered to sell back to the officers, potentially half, more or less, you believe would be wanting to make the purchase.
I believe so. Talking with the officers in the department, I think that probably about half or so would buy their guns back.
Okay. Thank you.
Discussion or action by the council? This is a resolution.
Chair, I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Aye. Councilmember Bedina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10D, adopt a resolution appropriating $150,000 from the Stormwater Enterprise Fund for the Madison Slope Stabilization Project and authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with ETIC Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $55,716 and a construction contingency of $11,150.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening. I have with me Nader Dahu, who is the project manager for this project. The purpose of this project to prevent property damage. The open space, the sloped open place between Madison and the Bethany Church is owned by the city. Back in 2009, a slide was stabilized at the southern portion of the slope. During the last rainy season, another slide started to develop north from that stabilized southern portion of the slope. To prevent further damage to the slope, the city managed this slide during the rainy season to cover with plastic and then to open that to dry, to facilitate for the soil to dry out during the dry weather to prevent further damage to the slope. Subsequently, Treadwell and Rollo, a geotechnical expert, proposed a design how to fix, to stabilize this slope. Based on the developed design by Treadwell and Rollo, the city went out for a bid. 2 bids were received. The lower bid was received from ETIC Engineering, who is a qualified contractor to do this type of work. Their bid was responsive, and our department feel comfortable to recommend to award the contract, the construction contract, to this contractor. During the construction, the geotechnical expert has to be on site to provide a certain on-site technical oversight for the implementation of the project. Our overall estimate for the cost for the project is $160,000. 150,000. Reason why I am recommending appropriation of $150,000 from the Stormwater Enterprise Fund to this project. Also to award the construction contract to ETIC Engineering for a $55,000 construction contract with a $11,000 construction contingency to accommodate any unforeseen condition on site for this type of project. With this, I am available with Nader to answer any question what you might have.
Any questions of staff on this item? Rico?
Go ahead. Again, you want to?
Okay.
Well, since it's above the old slide, can you make an assessment of what the condition of the old slide, what that condition is like, and how that repair has withstood time?
When this slide started to develop, our geotechnical expert made the assessment of the section south of this location, and that slope is very stable. The project did work out very well.
Irene?
Thank you. I'm just curious why the other bid was over twice the amount of the first bid, of the bid we're accepting. Was there some kind of reason that they gave, or?
Based on our assessment, can be many reasons. One of the reasons can be that TriNet is less expert in this type of project, and maybe that's the reason why their estimate was higher.
Okay, thank you.
And I realized the first part of the work was done in '09. And I remember going up to and parking in the church, going down, and somehow getting down to the site where they were going in with the holes. And I mean, what they did was quite a bit as far as trying to stabilize the hillside. Now, of course, there was a lot of work that was occurring above that, with apparatus, people coming and going, product being laid there. Did any of that have any destabilization to the site? I'm concerned that if we were already there doing that, is it that we didn't, at that point, maybe look at the larger area and what's to prevent another area from going, because obviously this is like less than 3 years later, that's just now above that initial site?
It's very hard to say. Certainly this location is just north from where that slope stabilization work took place before. Based on the geotechnical expert assessment, this stabilization work will be much less intensive. How much stabilization needed to be done on the southern portion, this slide just started to develop and was stopped at the very beginning stage of that slide. And this work recommends actually to drain that whole slope to the end of the slope, and that will prevent any further erosion or slides on that whole open space between Madison Street and the church itself. when the prior work was done, was this whole area was deemed stable. Reason why the recommendation was to fix only just the southern and the southern portion of that open area where the slide took place.
And has there been notification to the residents on Madison Avenue as far as what's been occurring, the plans, et cetera? Because obviously when the other aspect was happening, there was a lot of concern, a lot of phone calls I know I received, rightfully so. They saw the hill coming down close.
Was a ongoing communication with the property owner below this area and also with the church. The city already entered in written agreement with the church and also with the below property owner to grant us access to build, to construct the drainage down to the main drainage area just behind those homes on Madison Street.
We will provide an area-wide notice to make sure that people who live in the neighborhood but that are not immediately directly affected by the project are also have some information about what's going on in their neighborhood.
And I appreciate that because obviously it's going to be, I know what happened last time and it's a lot of activity. So you begin to wonder and begin to worry.
Before, just also another follow-up, before any construction, the city always has a pre-construction meeting inviting all of the neighborhood, everybody who will be impacted by the construction to that pre-construction meeting.
Questions or comments, Michael?
Is there anything that we learned from this particular situation where we may have missed back in '09 a potential for this to develop where maybe we can look at other projects maybe more carefully and try to figure out if there is a potential for these kind of things to develop over time where we missed it back then?
Based on geotechnical experts' opinion, wasn't any evident sign at the time of the construction of the first project which would have indicated the need for extending the project site for the whole area. And certainly the cost of prior project was very high already. That was around close to $500,000, the cost of the first project, and really wasn't deemed necessary at that time by any expert to extend the construction to the whole slide. Even if at that time the project itself was also peer-reviewed by another group of experts just to make sure that the city getting the best technical advice, knowing that this type of slope stabilization are the most challenging technical project to really stabilize the slopes. There are many unforeseen factors which can impact the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We're just making sure we didn't miss any clues that maybe we could address in the future. My other question is more of a policy one. The funding for this is going to come out of the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. I'm wondering, would it be an option for us to use emergency reserve funds for this and protect the enterprise funds, or is there a reason why we wouldn't do that?
Yeah, that's certainly an option of the City Council. We don't, as the Council is aware, we don't have a designated emergency reserve fund or emergency set aside, but certainly you have an undesignated reserve, and your consideration is well understood and well taken, because in fact our stormwater revenues and our stormwater fund generally is, I think it's fair to say, increasingly insufficient compared to the amount and the type of work that the city anticipates needing attention and being stormwater or stormwater runoff related. So that is certainly a consideration that we would welcome the City Council to make. That could be something that you could either just consider tonight, or you could make the appropriation tonight as recommended and take up reconsideration of that as part of your review of the upcoming review of the capital budget in total.
Okay, thank you.
Any action by the council? Michael?
I'd like to hear others' opinions on the funding of this. Any thoughts?
If I could, yeah. I don't know what else is planned, for, when you make mention that, that we may come up short on any other projects in this fund. If we look at that, overall long-term picture, maybe we can make that decision to take it from reserves. So I would be open to reconsider, later on.
Yeah, my comment was really addressed to the longer-term, bigger picture perspective. So it may be beneficial to the council if you would like to see at least the 5-year snapshot of what that looks like. But I think in very general terms, you have a very limited revenue source coming into the stormwater fund, which is the it's a very low amount that's collected as part of the property tax.
Around 600,000 each year.
Yeah.
And maybe is our intent to bring forward the stormwater management plan when really will be very necessary, that long-term assessment of the funding for stormwater enterprise. And maybe that would be another opportunity for you to see what is needed for stormwater management citywide.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice amount. It's 150,000. It's not like we're talking about $500,000 or something, So, I mean, I think it's well stated that we, really pay attention to where we best could take the money from.
More comments or action?
I think it would behoove us to go forward with this contract right now. We have a limited time to do it. We can fund it through the stormwater right now. If we find out we need to, we could always reimburse the fund if we find out it would be more expedient to do it that way and more necessary depending on what projects we do. But my understanding of this, we need to get it done before it rains, and so I believe it's a resolution. I'd like to introduce the resolution to go forward with this.
To the Chair. Just to answer your question that you posed to us, I think we need to go forward. I don't think that's not what you were saying. You were saying to go forward. The manager recommended using the funds that are allocated within the resolution. You're asking, I believe, would we consider funding that through the through reserves? And I'm open to that. I would be open to that because I think this is what they're supposed to be used for. And obviously, we have to prevent this because obviously the alternative is potentially buying some homes, and that's already been done once. So I would be open to that as the manager talked about coming back.
Okay, I'm open to it too, and the resolution has been introduced by Irene.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10E, adopt a resolution accepting the Lions Field Synthetic Turf Project number 83710 as complete and authorizing release of the contract retention amount.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, what you have before you tonight is the first in what staff is recommending will be a new process that, frankly, is consistent with the way that many other, if not most other cities do business, and in my opinion is an appropriate way for you to have the opportunity both to exercise your discretion as the policy body of the city and the ultimate determiner of what construction projects are undertaken in the city, to both see the project at the beginning of its construction by award of the contract and/or the construction contract and/or award of the design contracts, and then to see it at the end, at the project completion, for you to act to accept the project as complete based on staff's recommendation that all of the construction activities have been completed satisfactorily, that all punch list items are handled, and that the project is ready to pay, or rather the city is ready to pay the final retention amount to the contractor, which essentially secures the adequate and complete construction of the project. The item that's before you in the materials that are in the agenda packet tonight represent our recommendation for the use of a summary form and a process that's outlined in the flow chart that's included in the materials that you have in front of you. The specific project that's in front of you tonight for this, to initiate this new process, is the Lions Field project, which we inaugurated with the dedication ceremony last Saturday, and which has been in active use for the community for the past several weeks. The details of that project are, and the funding of that project and the ultimate construction cost is detailed in the materials that you have in front of you. And staff is available to answer specific questions or to hear your comments, both about the details of the project as well as the process moving forward. So again, the action item that's in front of you tonight is your acceptance of the project as complete, which would trigger the filing of a notice of completion with the county recorder, and then the authorization to pay the final retention amount, which then would terminate the relationship between the city and the construction contractor, in this case Interstate Paving and Grading, who's responsible for the construction of the project.
Okay. Questions or comments from City Manager?
Just on the flow chart, I know it's getting into the minutiae of things, but I'd be interested always in the future so we can learn and it's documented, change orders that occurred, the amount, what we seem to have as the initial thing. If here was a drainage issue, then obviously those were where several change orders came. The amount, if it went over budget, as to why. And I think it's important for us to have it as a living document. It's also, I think, teaches us things along the way so we're not reinventing the wheel. And I think it's important for the council to kind of see the process involved.
Anyone else? Any action?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra?
Aye.
Mayor Ruane?
Aye. Item 10F, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to file an application for state-local partnership program in lieu of federal surface transportation program.
The purpose of this item is to exchange federal surface transportation fund with state and local partnership fund. The city has a 430,000 federal surface transportation fund allocated for this budget year to implement improvement on our arterials. 2 months ago, the San Mateo Transportation Authority came to the local agencies in San Mateo County to offer if the local agencies want to exchange the federal fund with state fund. The benefit for the city of San Bruno and for the other local agency taking and exchanging federal fund to state fund would be that the state fund would be, the city could use state fund on all of the city streets and not just on certain city streets which are eligible for federal funding. Another advantage of that exchange would be that is higher flexibility, what can be included in the project, like the ADA ramps. using federal dollar, that would not be possible. The 88 M's would be paid out of our from a difference project. And the last big advantage would be using state fund versus federal fund would be the lower administrative cost for the project. Typically, it's higher expectation how you are managing the project and what kind of inspection requirement you have to meet for federal fund projects. The disadvantage using this specific state fund versus federal fund would be that is a certain date, March of next year, by which date this project has to be ready to go out for construction. If the city cannot meet that deadline, then the fund would be lost. The other disadvantage of this specific fund would be that the matching requirement is different than for the federal fund. The matching requirement for the federal fund is 11.5%, and the requirement for this specific state program is 50% match with Measure A money. The city would be able to meet both of these disadvantages based on the fact that in our proposed CIP program for this budget year is included, they are included two different road improvement projects, one using the federal funding and the second using for neighborhood street improvement with a proposed allocation of $800,000, which a combination of gas tax and Measure A fund. Reason why this would not be a challenge for us to meet the requirement of this state fund. This is the reason why I am here tonight recommending you to support this exchange of fund. What lately came up a new issue in regards to this exchange. TA and CCAG still is in negotiation with MTC, and they are finalizing the requirement for this state fund. If the requirements will be so restrictive that will make no sense for us to exchange the federal funds for state fund, then it will be up to the city to use this approval, but you are providing us if you will choose to approve this exchange fund, depending on the further clarification what the requirement for that state fund will be. What I am saying that even if you will support this action tonight, depending how that final requirement for this program it looks like, if will make sense for the city to exchange the fund or not.
Any questions of staff? Okay.
One other condition that I noticed was that it had to be a 15-year pavement life extension. So it was, what I gather from that is that it would take care of some of our, worst condition streets.
Correct. That was a new requirement added by MTC lately, actually, not initially. But that requirement could be managed, that could be met by our project. That basically in this project would be included overlays and reconstruction and would not be included seal coating projects.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions or comments or action?
No other question? I'll adopt the resolution.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 11, we already heard the report. Item 12, comments from council members.
Through the chair.
Ken?
In light of the tragic death of my friend and friend of many, Isaac Mejia, I just wanted to thank the city of San Bruno for the day. San Bruno Police Department, who took on a challenge of traffic at the church and with St. Robert's and Parkside School, and also with our city staff at this facility. So community services and everyone here at the senior center. I know it was a challenge because the facility is used at that time of day. So thank you. It was an appropriate event, and I think it was appropriately attended and taken care of by the city. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Closed session. We do not have a closed session this evening. Item 14, adjournment. The next regular city council meeting will be held right here, October 9th at the Senior Center, 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned.
Okay.